Oh, sorry, I pressed the button twice. You know, this is not my field anyway, but I'm so excited to be back on my live show. I took maybe a couple of weeks off, 2 weeks off, just busy with my real job. But I'm very excited because today I get to talk with one of my swimmers, one of the swimmers that I get to coach. We have a group of coaches here at Pinnacle Racing that we work with a bunch of postgrads and professional athletes. And Anton McKee has been with us for a year or so, and it's very exciting. He's with the ISL, with the Toronto Titans, and he's been swimming very well. We're very happy for him, for Iceland, and for the Toronto Titans. And tomorrow he's going to go into the last match. I think it's match number 4 for them, and then they're going to go into the semifinals. So he's going to take a little bit of time off his busy schedule. He can tell you the accident that he had. He didn't have any accidents. I'm just joking. But we'll go without me not getting more caught up in talking. I'm going to introduce Anton, and here's Anton. Hey, Anton, how are you?
Hey, Sergio, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. We never talk now.
Never, ever.
But I think first, thanks for spending some time today. I know it's around 8 p.m. over there in Budapest, and tomorrow you have early match. So I'm happy, and you're giving me this time so we can chat. And I think most important is maybe we can start with, how are you, man? How is everything?
Yeah, no, well, I'm glad to be here. This is actually a great, change of schedule for me. Usually I'm just locked up in this hotel room doing nothing. So this is definitely more engaging and exciting than, scrolling down your phone or playing video games all day. But no, I think overall this ISL experience has been extremely, I don't know, what's the best way to put it? Like engaging for me. Like I'm feeling for the first time like I'm actually, a pro swimmer, if that makes any sense. Obviously, I've been, decided to go pro a year ago, but this is now I feel like I'm fully living that lifestyle. And it's been amazing putting the focus on, I guess, the athlete themselves, in the ISL instead of performances. So that's been what's really helping to allow myself to just, enjoy, like you always talk about, being in the moment and enjoy swimming. So yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Being pretty happy right now.
That's awesome. And I think what a great experience then, being able to be there with how many, 240, 300 athletes, world-class athletes between all the teams. And you guys are in different hotels, are you? Or how is it working?
Yeah, so it's actually pretty interesting, the bubble that they've set up. So GREAT Island in Budapest is pretty much our island now. So there's 2 hotels here, and that's just where the athletes are. There's a bubble. We take a COVID test every 5 days. That doesn't get old. And yeah, we are allowed to sort of somewhat intermingle. It's very funny. You always have to have your mask on, apart from during lunch times or dinner times. And it's really funny when you go to the dining hall. There's all the tables are like spread out, to enforce COVID rules. So it's very weird having I guess trying to have a conversation with the person 3 tables over from you. But no, it's been a great experience. It's definitely for me just I guess broadening my horizons, especially when it comes to meeting new people, all that. And so, yeah, it's always fun for me to be a part of a team, especially since I'm not, usually when I do go to the bigger meets, I think the biggest group I've ever had of people together, I think it's been around 8 people on like a large international meet. And so being a part of, team of like 26, I think, or 28, it's just amazing, and then also meeting all the new athletes as well from the other teams.
That's awesome. And, I think it's great to see how all you guys, postgrads and pro swimmers and people that just finished college, that they're trying to understand if they can swim a few more years, what you guys do, and more during these times. This COVID thing has been such a interesting period of time for the last 8 months that I'm happy for you guys. That it seems like, at least from the TV, it seems that you guys are having a blast, with the competition. So,
well, I believe it's a genuine expression. It's it's not fake for TV. I think we're all having a I think there's a a very deep sense of gratitude, just being able to be a part of it, because just like you mentioned, with COVID, you can't really take anything for granted, especially when it comes to elite sport. And for the ISL to actually pull this off, I'm quite amazed and extremely grateful to have been a part of it. And this is for me that I'll never forget.
I'm happy. I'm excited. I know last year when you asked me if you should do this, I felt that would be awesome. It would be a great experience for you and also for us, or for me as a coach is great. I know we just talk through WhatsApp, and I, as a coach, I'm used to talking through WhatsApp with athletes for the last few years, but it's great. It's been a great experience, and now walk us through your experience in the water. Like from the first race, what you expected, or how things have evolved, and just I know, and if people don't know, I know because I should know that, but you broke 3 Nordic records and 3 Icelandic records between twice in the 200 breaststroke and once in the 100 breaststroke, and tell us about your experience with all that.
Yeah, as we talked, before going into this, one of the major benefits of doing ISL, especially at this time period in our season, was the fact that we would get this awesome race experience and all of these data points as to how to execute races, how to deal with being tired and racing, because that's a good simulation for the Olympics. And so, and then going into match 1, obviously I hadn't raced like at a high level or like extremely tapered for a long time. I think our last taper meet was in December 2019, and then the last meet we tried to swim decently fast at untapered was in February maybe. And so just a lot of unknowns coming into the meet, and that also gets helped with having very little expectations, which allowed me in that first meet to just really see what I had in me, and it really helped. I popped. So had amazing results in the 200, was able to bring it back really well. Really proud of that. I think it was like 102.4 coming back in the 200 breaststroke. Excuse me. And then in the 100, I was able to take it out strong and turn on the afterburners in the second 50 and get a personal best there as well. So for me, it was a lot about breaking barriers and also just proving to myself that all of this work that we put in came to fruition. And so it's always fun, I guess, getting a validation for the path that we're on is paying dividends. But yeah, then we got that data point and it was great. And then we had what do we have, like 5 days, 6 days until the next meet. So meet number 2. And then we decided to, like I talked about, getting those data points, like how my body's responding to different strategies. And that was when we, took it out in the 200, just balls to the walls. I was racing Marco. So I really, got into the moment and fed up that energy, having a extremely fast swimmer in the pool with me. And so I just wanted to hang with him and see what would happen. And yeah, that the last 50 there hurt a lot. But like I talked about, like it's good to get 2 different variations of the swims. I went all out, but I still improved by like 0.1. But my last 50 was, I think, a whole second slower than it was in race number 1. But obviously, I had more time in the bank from that first 100 that I went fast out in. And then it's gotten quite interesting. The 100 in that meet was good as well. It's always the 50 right all at 200. I guess like I'm just like very much into my 200 stroke. So just like sort of changing that mentality from, all right, we're not going to think about efficiency anymore. We want to be like high stroke rate, snappy. It's been and shorten your pullouts and all that stuff. So my 50s have been decent, and I'm happy with them. But it's just one of those things that I have to learn. I've never had this sort of situation before where I only have half an hour in between races and have to go from 200 endurance mode into sprinting. So those 2 meets went really well, and then we only had 2 days of rest after that meet. And that's when I went into match 3, where we wanted to go again with a little more relaxed, laid-back approach to the 200 and try to bring it back home to find that good flow, which I did. But the time wasn't quite there, but I'm still happy with how I executed the race. And then I want to say, I don't know if it's physical tiredness or if it's more mental tiredness, because my body's been feeling all right through this whole intense racing schedule. Because with this meet Mats World that's coming up right now, I'll have had 6 days of racing in the past 10 days, so it's been very intense. But in match 3, the shorter sprint events were really just didn't really click, weren't really there, and maybe that was, like I said, mental or physical, or just not allowing myself to flow and maximize my stroke. So times were a little I'm not gonna say disappointing. You always want more, but I'm still proud of what I'm doing, because I know I also have to get used to the fact that we're not focusing on the times anymore. We're focusing on points, and I was able to deliver the points where they mattered. And the same went for the skins, where I was able to make it through to the second round, and times could have been better, race execution could have been better, but at the end of the day, I scored points for my team, and it's really interesting changing the mindset to that. Obviously, it goes back to the college days, but at the same time, I think it's a little more intense when it comes up to the ISL level. Yeah,
sure. Well, I think that's great, and I think like we talk about it, and I think times are very important. Records are great. But I think, like you said, this is like when you were at Alabama, or me coaching the Virginia Tech team. We talk sometimes it's about the team, because if the team doesn't do well, you don't go to the semifinals. You can break a world record, and your team doesn't do well, and you're out of the semifinals and maybe out of the finals. So that's and I think it's always it's very hard in a sport like swimming to take that individual success and put in the team. But I think like somebody like you, somebody like me, a lot of the Americans, and some of the foreigners that have been able to be in the college aspect in the United States, they're used to that, and they feed off that, and we talk about this, and I know you're happy with your swims, but a year ago your best was what, 204 and 57 or 58 in the 100, and now consistently you're going 201. You go 203.0, taking not an easy race, but doing a very controlled swim, and all that a year later, you're swimming consistently so much faster than you were a year ago. So all that, as a coach, to me, and we talk about it, it's a great sign for the Olympic Games. And that at the end of the day, that's going to be important. And one thing that we talk is like at the Olympic Games, it doesn't matter if you break the world record, because if you break the world record and you get fourth, nobody's going to remember you. You got to get
exactly. No, it's and that's another point too, that I guess obviously it's easy to say this when things are going well and I'm improving, and always wanting more and never being satisfied, with what you end up doing in the pool, and just always thinking about the next thing. But it's really, and you've helped me do that, is to take that 3,000 feet view of my career, and so look like a little bit into the past as well. Like, where were you a year ago? Where were you 6 months ago? And so looking at my performances right here, right now, just like all of them throughout the entire ISL series, I couldn't be asking for a lot more, just looking at it holistically. So that's a very important perspective to have too. You can't be, I guess, too ambitious or too aggressive when you're looking at your results and getting fed up over minuscule items, instead of just being happy and grateful for the steps you're taking forward.
Well, I can tell you, me as a coach, and the thing I talk with the other coaches about it. It's something that maybe not that I'm wiser now, but maybe I'm older, But what happens is that sometimes as a coach, when you see improvement, your brain, and as a swimmer it happens too, goes faster than your body, And I remember after your first race that you went 201, and then you're going to race Marco and all this, I'm thinking, hey, is he going to go 2 minutes or faster than that? And you're like all nervous about it and this and that. And so I cannot deny that I think the same than you. So it's like... But I think one of the things that we talk a lot with the coaches is to really understand that we cannot go faster. We have to stay the course, And sometimes just because some things go well, we think that now instead of a 2-minute, a 2:01 200 breaststroke, we need to be 1:58. And sometimes, a couple of things might show you that you have the potential to do that, but you might not be ready at that moment. No, and
exactly,
and that I think that in you as an athlete and me as an ex-athlete, it puts so much pressure on you, and sometimes we don't understand how to appreciate. And I'm not saying that this happened to you. I'm just talking in general, but appreciate the success that we have at that moment, and
exactly.
how wonderful it is, But
I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah. There's a question.
I was gonna,
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say real quick, tying to that, great performance in the first race, and you talk about, the mind sort of racing ahead, and obviously that's a it can't be a good thing and a bad thing. Obviously, the way you look at it, because obviously you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself and then get disappointed. But I was very fortunate, and this is why I love being on this team. There's so many great athletes that I'm now, friends with, and that I can, tap into their wisdom. And excuse me, one of my good friends on this team here, Andrew Govorov, he told me the 4 things to, doing something special, or the 4 steps to success. So the first thing would be you'd have to, you have to hope. That's the very first step of doing something amazing. Then the next step would be you gotta be able to dream it. So make it your dream. And then you gotta be able to believe in it. And then after that, you gotta know that you can do it. And so I guess if I look at myself and, with the goals that I have for my 200 breaststroke, especially in short course where I can leverage my pullouts, I think I'm finally at that point where I know that I believe truly, every cell of my body believes that I can do something special. And the race that I went against Marco, that race 2 in the in the ISL, that was me, getting the first bit of information for step number 4, which is knowing. So, I have to know that I can actually execute and go do it. And, and to be able to do that, you have to collect some data points, just like we did. We took it out super hard in that 200. And, so we know that we do have the speed, but we can't take it out all out and then end up dying. It has to be like a middle way there where we can actually get that speed, but it's, that good, easy speed, and then hold on the way back. And so, that's just part of the process. Now I believe I can do something great. Awesome. Well, now we're going to chip away at, finally knowing that we got it. And after that, once we know, we just, got to get a couple tries and it'll pop. So that was very interesting. I guess as a framework to me to, put my swims in. So, yeah.
There's a question. I'm going to put it here so you can think about it, and then you can answer later, because there's something that maybe we can talk. Anton, please, sharing what type of dryland exercise you support your powerful kick and breaststroke. You don't answer this now. Just think about it.
Okay. Yeah.
I think one of the things about, if you don't mind, maybe we can talk about when we were looking at your video of the 50 breaststroke and then the 100 in the relay. Randomly, we timed the second 25 of the 50 and the second 25 of the 100. Are you okay with me sharing all that stuff?
Yeah. Let's go for it.
Because I think one of the things when we watched the video, we did it through Zoom, and we were watching the video of the 50, and we counted the strokes, and there was 10 strokes, and looks very not the Anton that we know swimming, and me as a coach, I'm not probably the most scientific or always looking at the stroke. It's just it's about the eye, how you feel. I'm the type of person that when I see one of my swimmers, the swimmers that I coach, I can feel what they do or not. And watching that, it was not him. So we went through the analysis of the 50, and then we're looking at the relay, and out of the blue, we look at I said, okay, you had 10 strokes on the last 25 of the 50, and we time it, and it was 14.12 seconds. And then we did the same thing with the second 25 of the 100 in the relay, that you had 7 strokes, and we time it, and it was 10.15 seconds. So the difference was you did 3 extra strokes, and you only went 3/100ths of a second faster. So that's about the efficiency that we need to learn of, like, when you're talking about the 200 breaststroke getting out too fast, because maybe you get out in at 58.7 or 58.9, and you could be out in a 59.1 or 50, a couple tenths slower with 1 or 2 strokes less. Then at the end of the race, you would be able to finish the race much better. Do I make sense?
Exactly.
So how do you feel about all that? I know we've been working in the warm-ups on the tempo and the strokes, and how do you feel for the next race?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot about, I think, I'm not going to say I didn't trust myself, but it's about, really knowing that, and that's why I think the race experience and all the data points that we've gotten up to this point, not that I didn't know how to race anymore, but it's been a hot minute. It's been at the top level racing fast. But, now I truly know that if I want to go as fast as possible, it's not going to help me increasing my stroke rate and starting to jam, short strokes in. Like, if anything, it's going to make me, more tired, unable to recover for the next race, and ultimately go slower and lose out on points. And so, and that's another thing that's, I guess, a lot of, mental too, because when you're in that race, you've got to be able to control that aggression or that willingness to, I got to go faster, I got to go speed up. Like, there's not a, correlation between those two things. And so, I guess, with just with trying it again and again and again, hopefully tomorrow I'll hit that perfect efficiency and maximize the speed out of each stroke. So well, I mean, I couldn't agree with that more, that it's all about finding that magic point where the speed and the power matches.
Well, but think about this, and somebody like you, somebody like Marco, somebody like Eric, who's in your team from Sweden, and you guys swim the 200 breaststroke, and 25 or 30 minutes later, you have to swim the 50 breaststroke against guys that didn't swim the 200 breaststroke. They're not going to get anywhere close to that breaststroke. So you're talking about you're talking about a swimmer like you, Marco, Eric, that pretty good. You're top at the 200 and top at the 50 and the 100. But, when you do an effort for over 2 minutes at 100%, and 25 minutes later, you have to race against guys that they're big, strong, and the only thing they do is a sprint. I'm not saying that you're in a disadvantage, but all of you are going to try a lot harder than you should, probably because of the conditions of the race, and it's I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just psychologically, it's a hard way to balance, because like you said, you want to go fast. You just want to go fast, and
yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I briefly touched upon this in the beginning of a talk that I had. It's also just very interesting to see how, not that I'm gonna change myself as a swimmer, but well, okay, in the ISL right now, I'm gonna be going all out on all of my races. Just wanna get points, get the experiences, and see where I'm at. But then maybe when season 3 comes around, and if the schedule is the exact same, then it gets really interesting, and it kind of goes into like game theory. It's not necessarily anymore about just some swim times. It's like, just like you mentioned, I may go up against guys that didn't swim the 200, and then the question becomes, okay, if I know that I'm fit enough to win a 200 comfortably, I'm not too concerned about like either me or Eric getting 1-2 like we did in match 3. Is it worth it for me to swim slow? And this is talking like when we don't care about times anymore, just getting for those points for the team. Do I swim slower 200? Maybe get second or third, but I'm so fresh now for the 50. I maybe only went 90%, but now I can get more points in the 50 instead. So you add up your 200 points and your 50 points, and they may equal out to let's say like 13 points. But then it becomes super interesting with jackpots, because going against fast guys like Simjanovic and Saxi in the 50 breaststroke, they may go that fast that they'll jackpot me regardless of how fast I go in the 50. So like it happened in match 4. Well, I got DQ'd. I mean, match 3 got DQ'd, so it didn't matter anyways. But my time would have gotten 4th, I think. Yeah. But Saxi went so fast that he took all my points. But then like me going slow on the 200 didn't matter. all of a sudden, because then and then the question is, should I then have gone all out on the 200 breaststroke and try to jackpot people? Or, should I just have saved up everything and maybe not thrown the 50 at all to go faster in the relay? So it's like all these sort of interesting dimensions that all of a sudden come into swimming that we've never had before. Because it's been like swim fast, make it to, if you're really good, you could have done like, I'm going to go a little slower now, so I don't burn all my energy in prelims, and then I'll go fast final. But it's never been like this sort of level of, I guess, game theory in swimming. So it makes it really fun and exciting. And I think definitely, with season 3, we'll probably have to do some race strategy talks.
Well, I think all of you should read The Art of War, The Art of War, because this what you're talking about is like how you can win the little battles. So at the end, you can win the whole thing, And like you said, exactly. you go easier because you feel, guys, that you have a good strategy and you can go first, second, and then you get jackpot in the next one and you lose so many points. When maybe if you went 201 again, you could jackpot the points from somebody else, So
exactly,
that's a very interesting thing, The organizers of the ISL have really thought pretty well about how to screw up the system. So I bet a lot of people are not very happy of like, God, I went all out fast and I get 0 points and they took my points away and give it to somebody else, So
yeah,
but,
no, it's a very interesting concept.
How are people feeling about that? Are they okay with all that, with the jackpot?
Well, I will say in the beginning, maybe like match 1 going into it, I really thought, wow, this is a system that I'm not a fan of. But and this is coming from someone who has both been jackpotted and jackpot some other people. Like I've gotten points stolen away from me, and I've stolen points. So like I've been at both, ends of the spectrum here. It really makes it interesting, and really makes you sometimes push yourself harder. Because like, for example, in that 50 where Sox just dominated and like, I think he beat people like 1.4 seconds in the 50. It's just like, I have to find a way. I have to find a way to get faster. And, and that's something that will have to go into the training then, okay, if I'm going to be a 200 guy, how can I still not get jackpotted by Soxy? And it just, of course, it's never fun, but I really think it's a great motivation for all the athletes to, somehow figure out a way to get to that next level. I know it's brutal and it's extremely gruesome, but and in the end, I think it just pushes everyone to a higher level. The one thing that I will say though that I do not agree with the jackpot system is stealing money. Fair, the swimmer that did jackpot, 5 or 6 people. You could argue that he deserves the money of people who got 3rd and 4th, but I think that's not necessarily, at least as a person myself, I would feel horrible knowing that I took money from someone who, just especially coming from someone who's trying to become a pro athlete in swimming and knowing how important that revenue is. So that's maybe a system that can be checked into, like leaving the money out of it, but taking the points. I think that's what makes it interesting and fun. And
sure.
It's just a challenge to get better.
Yeah. Well, I think, for example, I don't know if we were aware of the jackpot things before when we went into this, but I think being the Olympic, and 2021 shouldn't be an Olympic year, but it's the Olympic year because of whatever has happened. I think there's no 50 breaststroke at the Olympics. I think this year, what's most important for somebody like you is to keep preparing. And these races are preparing you for the 100 and 200 at the Olympics and to make sure that you're at the top on it. And that's very important. And I think once the Olympics are over, we can figure it out. Do we need to prepare for that 50? Because your background on the 200 is going to be there. Do we need to do something different? 50. And you already understand how to swim a 200 breaststroke very well. So, and as I always said, we put it so much money, like training is like putting money in the bank. And then sometimes, like right now in your 50, you have a lot of money for that 50 in the bank, but sometimes we forget that ATM PIN number, so we cannot retrieve that. We need to make sure that we keep that number in our brain. And what do we do in training?
They froze my account.
Yeah. What do we do in training that allows you to be consistent, amazing in the 50, consistent, amazing in the 100, consistent, amazing in the 200? And I think that's a great
Mhm.
project for the next season, after the Olympics.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
And
then,
and obviously with the Olympics being obviously the Olympics are always going to be the main. I think in the hearts of all swimmers, that Olympic dream of standing on the podium for your country. I think that's something that's never going to be, the pole star of what drives you forward. But definitely ISL has just changed the way. I guess the focus has been, especially on the sprint events, and with the skins, it can change the outcome of an entire meet. So.
sure.
Not I'll never abandon the 200, but just like you said, being able to be versatile and lethal in all three events.
And I think you can, you can. So, but before we go to the question from Indonesia, your teammate
Mhm.
Jonathan has
Ooh.
he's the brains. He's the brains in our team. From graduated from Yale, always really dan, and always like having so many. We have Jonathan and I. We have great discussions from politics, voting, and everything. So he has this question: how has Toronto managed to build up a team identity with so many new swimmers and also COVID restrictions?
Yeah, this was actually something that we all had to figure out when we showed up. We had a team meeting, and it was like, all right, guys, what's our team identity going to be? And it was really a fun sort of brainstorming activity. And I guess with regards to the COVID restrictions, we just all have to, wear our beautiful masks on at every time we have meetings. But so that hasn't been that big of an issue. But with the team identity stuff, it was it was very interesting. Like, luckily, I guess, being a Titan, it sort of comes with this big power and being mighty, and so it's really easy to just, I guess, latch onto that. I'm not gonna say which team we may have stolen the hand movement from that we do, but we definitely got an inspiration from a college team in the SEC.
Yeah, don't say it. No.
Yeah, exactly.
I have the utmost respect for the head coach, but don't say it.
Yeah. But so we just tried around a couple of things, and we like that Toronto team now, and everybody was on board with that. Then there was this movie called I've never seen the movie, but it's called Remember the Titans.
I've seen it many times.
Yeah. And so, that's a movie I want to watch now. But there's a scene in that movie where they're all on the field and they're like dancing and singing. And so, like everywhere we go, people want to know like who we are. And so like we do that chant now before our meets. And so that's sort of, gotten around like who we are, we're the we're the Titans, and we're a force to be reckoned with. So that's been sort of fun. But then also just in general, building a team culture with just meeting up a lot of people that you don't know. I don't know if it's because the majority of the people here are Canadian, and the Canadian nice to sort of, is contagious and spreads all around. But I think it's been a very laid back environment, which everyone has been allowed to just, be themselves. And I don't know how to, I guess, I think everyone has just been like open and receptive to meeting people, getting to know them, understanding their culture, where they come from, all that, and, what they want to do, what they want to, what inspires them, and what they're swimming, all that. So it's been really fun to get to know people, and yeah, just I guess that culture of being open and receptive to new people has been very easy to like both make friends here and just feel like a cohesive group.
Awesome. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Hopefully, Jonathan is happy with the answer you gave him. We're gonna get a lot of criticism.
Yeah,
there'll be. Oh, look. Agree. Great movie. Thanks, Jonathan. We have Jonathan's seals of approval. Let's go to Donnie. The question that he asked you.
Yeah.
Before, please share what kind of dryland exercises support your powerful kick and breaststroke.
Yeah. So I'm sure you're okay with sharing what we do in dryland. So I guess if I go into my dryland routine, it goes 2 times a week. We have dryland on Tuesdays and Thursdays before we go swim. So it's like a 45-minute dryland, and then after that we'd have 1.5 hour swim workout. And so in that dryland we do a lot of squat jumps, and with a very, very, very little rest. So it'll maybe be when you do go crazy on us, it does go up to like a couple rounds of 10 all-out explosive squat jumps into maybe the boxing that we do, and then we get like 30-second rest. So a couple rounds of that really gasses your legs, and I do feel a great translation from the squat jumps that we do, just going directly into, I guess that's more of a power breaststroke, kicking hard and leveraging that glide. And so that's actually, it's a love-hate relationship. It's a great exercise, but it hurts when you're doing it. And then obviously it depends like where I'm at in the season, but usually during the building phase, I will have 3 weight workouts as well, where one of them, 2 of them are focused on, I guess, legs primarily, one being deadlifts. And this may be a wrong philosophy, but this is a philosophy that I believe in with weights for at least, a swimmer at my level. I do enough hypertrophy and endurance work in the pool. I don't need to add any more hypertrophy in the weight room. So like, it'd be like just doing a lot more of the same thing. I want to do the things that I can't, do in the water on land, and that being building strength. And so all my weight sessions are sort of geared around strength training, and that being, 3 to 4 sets of, very heavy weight. And it's going to be, maybe, 4, maximum 6 repetitions. Usually it's around like, 3 to 4 repetitions with things. And so that's, like going with that heavy weight. So I'm trying to, get as strong as I can in the weight room with the deadlifts. And then another favorite exercise of mine is front squats, which I think really, that, frontier chain of your body that you're going to be leveraging in breaststroke, because you've got to hold that line extremely tight, especially when you're opening up and going into the pull phase. You've got to keep that core tight all the way through. That's a direct translation right there, I believe, when you're doing the front squats. And then obviously just, working on those leg muscles during like the squat itself. So I think those two exercises, I guess complement, the power output we want to increase in the pool.
Yeah, like I agree with you. I think you guys don't need any more hypertrophy in the weight room, because the important thing that we talk about is how can you as a swimmer utilize the power that you have in a consistent way through the race, and sometimes you get too big because you lift like, you do too much hypertrophy, not you, I mean, as an athlete, and the last 25% of your race being either a 50, 100 or 200 goes out the window, and a lot of people don't see that, we always talk about the subtle speed that you can be sustaining in a consistent way through the race, being a 50, being a 100, or being a 200. Just think about the example that we gave before with the 50 second 25 and the 100 second 25. 3-stroke difference, and you go 3 100s slower. But how exhausted were you when you touched the wall after that 50? And after that 100, after that first 50 of the 100, you still came back for 50 more. So that's a great example, and what you said is awesome. I think it's very important. Every athlete, like I don't know, like, and Anton will tell you, he has his own weight and conditioning coach. I do some for some swimmers. Some other swimmers have their own weight and conditioning coach. And as long as we understand how things are going, things work in many different ways for every different athlete. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And then one thing that I will say with that, there's a time and place for everything. Obviously, there's a time and place for training hypertrophy. I'm not saying all athletes should go skip hypertrophy lifting, because that's, where your foundation comes from. That's where I, especially in college, did a lot of. And, with that base, that allowed me to focus a lot more on strength as I graduated from college. And, now it's, a fair question, Sergio, like I've heard you talk about before, like, how much bigger or stronger do we really have to get? Maybe now it's time to just maintain the legs. We don't need to get a lot stronger in the legs, but maybe it's like upper body lifting more. And then when that's done, we don't need to like lift a whole lot more. So it's like, it's not that I'm going to stop lifting, but it's just like, I guess the strategies that we employ to, get that next step. I think it's definitely going to be a fluid, strategy going forward.
Yeah, well, it goes by stages, because I think, for example, if you're strong enough, now maybe we take a year or 6 months, whatever time it takes, to make sure that we utilize that, and maybe 6 months down the road or a year down the road, we have to go back to the weight room to increase the muscle mass or the power, whatever it is. And then we need a few more months to not to work so hard there, but to be able to, we can finish those races with that type of power that we have with every stroke that we do.
Exactly.
So it has to be, they have to work together in a very synchronizing way, it's like, because at the end of the day, most races, if you watch, people say, wow, this guy got so much faster than everybody else in the last 50. Maybe everybody else died on the last 50, because if you look, that kid that swimmer was consistent with the number of strokes, and the speed didn't go much faster, just kept the speed constant.
Exactly.
So that's a very good thing that we as coaches, we're learning all the time, because things evolve so quickly. But it's interesting.
No, I definitely agree with on the point on like, maintaining the speed, because I think no athlete is actually, going faster in the end there. He just doesn't die as much. And I think I was listening to the Brad Hawk podcast with Jason Lesak, and I think he was talking about like, oh my God, like, how did you catch how did you, well, I didn't really like go any faster. I like sort of slowed down, but he died, there's
Well, so when I swam the 200 breaststroke at the Olympics in 1992, I wrote a thesis, an 80-page thesis about the 200 breaststroke. I need to find it and share it with you, but for graduation for college. And people were talking about how Mike Berman finished on a 32 something. I don't remember what it was, 32. And everybody's like, wow, he got faster and faster and faster. And the reality is that the rest of the field got slower and slower and slower. And it's not that he got faster. He was able, and I know him because I trained with him for 3.5 years. And our coach always coaches for the last 50, not to get faster, just to stay the course. You stay, you don't die. You don't go 33 on the third 50 and 35 on the fourth 50. You're 33.5 in the third 50 and 33.4 or 33.6 in the last 50. Makes sense? And that's a concept that people, I don't think they think about it. But let's stop fixing the problems of the world. This guy has a question for you. What's the difference between kick on 50 and 200 meters?
Yeah, well, I'll try to answer it as best as I can, Sergio. You could definitely correct it because you'll have a better theory on it. But like for me, I wouldn't necessarily say that I changed the kick itself. It's just more about the rate of it. And so as I, generate the force in the 200, I want to make sure that I use up every single, amount of energy that I've had into my line and into my glide before I have to, kick again to maintain the velocity that I have. Whereas and obviously there, velocity you have to, what you can and have to hold in the 200 is going to be way different than the velocity you have to hold in the 50. And so that's really, I guess, the only thing that I change. But also I train for the 200, and so I guess I'm morphing my stroke down to the 50. Whereas, it's very interesting to see how breaststroke has been changing now, and a lot of guys have narrowed. So I open up big, catch and kick back, whereas a lot of guys have narrowed their stroke, narrowed their kick. So being more geared for the 50, but requires a lot more, I think, effort to maintain, and obviously it's not sustainable for a 200. So there are actual differences if I would train like that, a very narrow, more fluid kick for the 50, and then that power for the 200. But that's just, I guess the philosophy of maintaining velocity is what's my differentiation in the kick. I do the exact same one, just more higher rate in the 50.
Well, I think you're right, and there's many different kicks in breaststroke. But if you watch all these fast guys that they're so big, they have a very small kick. You saw when Felipe Lema was training with us, his kick was very small. Well, you look at Ilya, I don't know his last name, the fast guy. I cannot pronounce. I'm going to butcher his last name, but he does almost a small butterfly kick, and the Turkish guy the same, and Adam Peaty the same. They have a very small kick, but they're so powerful. But if you watch them, they're never going under the water. They keep their bodies so high. And the bottom line, to answer the question from the coach's perspective, from Chris, it's not so much about the kick. I think it's about how can you keep your center of gravity close to the surface. We always talk about that, Anton, and that's what they do. They're so high up that they never, when your center of gravity moves a little bit, you lose the speed. But these guys are able to, with that small kick and that powerful first part of the pool and lunging forward, they keep themselves on top nonstop. So, and that's with a small kick, you can do it easier probably at that rate,
Exactly.
So, yeah. Hey, the next question will be, are you guys tapered for the ISL events?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the athletes and where they are at in their program. Obviously, I was very fortunate to have had minimal training disruption during COVID. I think I had 3 weeks of pool closure, and during those 3 weeks, I was able to immediately jump on a bike trainer to, maintain my aerobic base, so I didn't have to start building back up from, a deficit. So for me coming into here, we had no reason not to sort of go for our taper and see where we're at. So yeah, we took how many weeks was the surgery before? Was it 3 or 4 before we raced that we did taper?
Yeah, normally, my taper is going to be around 4.5, 5 weeks. Because of different reasons, and your groin, the groin that you had, that a couple times he had some groin issues. So we probably did 3 weeks, I want to say, because the goal that we had when we talked, and you can explain it, when we talked before all this was that to try to start tapering right before you left. So by the 4th match, you were fully tapered in a way, So, but, as a coach, one of the things, and as a swimmer, but as a coach-swimmer relationship, one of the things that you always have to do is understanding that the plan is always dynamic and it changes because different things change. If you have a plan and you stick to the plan, like I know many coaches, and if something doesn't go to the plan and they start thinking, oh, we're behind the schedule, or nothing, then you have a problem. So the important things I learned from Anton, hopefully Anton learns from me, and we can, I adapt, he knows it, sometimes it's hard to think about adapting so quick, but that's what we try to do. So in a nutshell, you can explain it.
I was gonna say, we're like, I'm hoping for another best time in match 4, hoping that my little shaving cut doesn't slow me down. I had a little slip up and I cut my calf pretty good. But so for me personally, yes, I am tapered, and I expect to be going close to best times for best time in match 4 and in the semifinal. But it's also interesting, and then, again, we talk about this ISL being a game theory now. It's all about how to maximize points at the right times. And now for some teams, so obviously I have very high hopes and faith and belief, and I love my team, but just looking at the overall picture and the strength of the teams that are ahead of us, it is going to be we're going to have to get really lucky to make it to the finals. Obviously, we're going to swim lights out in the semis and do our very best to get there. But at the same time, we're going to have to be, coming into this, we had to fight for a spot in the semis, and then 2, we're going to have to fight like crazy in the semis themselves. So we had to come in and swim fast all the way through. Whereas some teams are, lucky enough to have a deep enough roster where they sort of knew based on the schedule and like how the other teams are looking, that they'll probably make it all the way to the final. So like, why would you taper for the first 1, 2, 3 meets if you know that you're going to make it to the finals, and in the finals, that's where you want to win the meet. So that's where you should be max tapered. So I think like we're seeing a variety of like, performances, and people are bouncing up and bouncing down, meet by meet. So yeah, I think it's just like, one, how did people train in COVID? And then 2, how was your schedule looking? I think that's really what's going to dictate how people are swimming and their like speed and taper. Yeah.
Well, also, you said it right. It's the depth of the level, the high level athlete that each team has. Energy Standard had, what's her name? God, I'm getting old. My brain has a brain fart. The Swedish girl, what's her name? The butterfly.
Sure.
Yeah. She had a back problem. There's no issue putting her one match without swimming, comes back and goes so fast. Like if your team loses one of the top guys, you lose Shane Ryan, or you lose yourself, or you lose one of those.
Yeah, or girls who's doing very well.
Yeah, or with the girls too. Like, talk about Wong, the breaststroker, or Coleman, or any one of those. If you guys lose one of those, maybe you wouldn't have made it to the semifinals.
Yeah, exactly. So it's that's why also the ISL is almost fun. Okay, I will say it'd be more fun if teams were more balanced, but at the same time, it just makes for, I guess, for the Titans, we come to every meet ready to go, and we're gonna, do our best showing. What's makes it fun too. So,
in a couple of years or next year, when you guys beat Energy Standard, it'll make it even nicer, because you gotta believe in that. You gotta believe on the, and it's a part of like, it's like Energy Standard can only go down. You guys can only go up.
That's true. Yeah.
So it's a strategy. It's the art of war.
Yeah. No,
even though Energy Standard, and I'm not trying to get in bad terms with anybody here, but they're running this pretty much. So you guys will have a hard time beating them.
I guess like the only thing I'll say to this is this, that obviously the league is very young, and I think no professional sports league started out perfect from the very get-go. So I think, as we go through the seasons, and I really hope that there will be multiple more ISL seasons, and that this will, become sustainable and viable, and, just be a, product on its own. And, I think as we go through the iterations, things will become, set up in a way that it gets very competitive and exciting. And not saying that it isn't right now, but, just all the kinks worked out. Yeah.
Well, I think so. I think I'm so happy that they have come out with this concept. And I think something that maybe as we go into more and more on this, like the same way that the college teams in college, you fundraise, you have alumni that donate money and this and that. If people get excited about the ISL and they see it as a benefit for swimming, they might start putting money into these teams. Makes sense? And that's the important thing. And that's the goal. The goal for the ISL is to keep more teams and more teams funded, and that they can make money,
I mean, obviously I'm very biased towards swimming, but I truly believe that, the product that the ISL has been able to create is a viable one and a marketable one. And there are companies that are interested. It's just a very tough financial situation, I think, for every, single, I think no companies after thinking, oh yeah, we want to go and, expand ourselves. So, hopefully with, when the world gets, cured of COVID, we can see the ISL, just take off. That'd be phenomenal.
Absolutely. Hey, let's go. We're almost 1 hour here talking. Not that I could be talking with you for the next 3 hours, but we're gonna let you go to bed and rest. But there's one more question, maybe the last one that we can have, and then you can give maybe your final thoughts if you want to. But maybe we can have another one of these talks after the semifinals. But here, let's give Anthony your strategy in the 100 breaststroke and short course.
Okay. So I mean, we can just go with the strategy that I used for the for the 100 on my PP in the Mats 1, where I went 56.3. I mean, pretty much with the 200 background that I have, I need to set that easy speed up for the first 50, because if I try to somehow force anything, all I'm gonna do is just waste energy. Like, I guess we'll say it this way: my potential for like higher velocity just isn't there. I'm not saying that I'm slow. I'm just saying, like, by putting more effort into it, there's diminishing returns, especially coming out of a dive and when you have that easy speed and you're fresh and you're popping and take that first wall. So, and then another thing is leveraging my pullouts. I'm not, like, I know that I've put a tremendous amount of work and effort into honing my pullouts, and so they are now an asset that I can, deploy in my races. And so it's interesting to be patient, and that's one of the things that Sergio has tried to hammer into my head, which still isn't working, but I'm getting there, is to remaining patient, even though we're in 100. Like, it's like, it doesn't feel like it, but I'm actually going way faster underwater than I am going to be on top of the water doing breaststroke. And so it's like finding that perfect, maybe like that 12, 13 meter pull out that I'm surging out of into the breakout, and just really leveraging all that momentum that I gained from the pull down. And then it's really turning everything on at the 50 wall. Not that, and this is also something that I've been, learning and really seeing as turning things on too aggressively will not work. And so it's like slipping into that, starting to put, the foot on the gas pedal in that third 25. And, by the time that I want to be touching the 75 wall, I'm at max speed. So I'm not like adding anything more. I'm just then maintaining that speed that I put into the wall and driving it home. That's when I was able to really hit a, I think it was my first time going sub 30 in the second 50 of 100. I think so. But yeah, like 29.8 coming home. And so obviously, to go faster, I need to set up maybe a better 50 split, and then, maintaining the same speed coming home. But I think that's sort of, my strategy. But at the same time, then, like, guys like Cam Vandenberg, which have amazing, speed going out, they're going to deploy a very different strategy where they're going to attack the race from the get-go. And, if I was next to him, he would, put like maybe like a 0.8 lead on me just on the first 50, but then I would, be able to hold or maybe gain a little bit on the end. Obviously, it's faster than me, but that's sort of the, I guess, obviously coming from a 200 background, the strategy that I apply.
Well, thanks. And what would be your final thought about anything? Maybe an advice for young guys or for Icelander swimmers? Hey, Icelander swimmers. Yeah, well, so I don't know. What would be your final thought?
Okay, sure. Now this is actually something that I'm coming to learn, especially as I keep climbing up the rankings, or the world rankings or my personal rankings, and keep achieving my goals and getting always closer to the dream, which is to set a world record in 200 breaststroke. So it's super interesting. So this is a quote that my girlfriend told me, and she's been very helpful with, like, both you, Sergio, and my girlfriend, helping me with like my mental state, especially in these big meets. But the quote is, and I have to like find out more where it's from and everything, but the quote is this: before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And so what the message of that quote is, you always fantasize in your mind that like your whole life is gonna like change or become so much better, or everything's gonna be different after you achieve this like ultimate goal or like this huge thing. And so like now for me, like if I look at my swimming career and just like at the point where I'm at right now, if I look a year back and I would like look through a lens and be able to see like where I was at, I would think, oh my God, the Anton like today is going to be so happy, and like, everything's going to be amazing. Everything is so easy. It's going to be the best thing in the world. But the reality of it is, it's the exact same, and you're going to have to do the exact same things as you're like going forward. And like you said before I left, what the magic is that there is no magic. And so that's sort of like, you're going to be, you're grinding towards that amazing goal. And, it's just, you're chopping wood and carrying water, and then you do it. And then you're gonna continue doing that exact same thing as you know, after you reach there, because like it's gonna be the exact same, because then you reach that enlightenment, well, you're gonna find a new goal, and you're gonna find a new strategy, or like something to pursue, and then you're gonna have to continue working for it. So I think it's just, not fantasizing or hyping up something that you have, going. It's and this is what we talked to. Stay the course. Trust the process. Stay the course. I think that's really what it all boils down to.
And I would say that once you reach those goals, reflect on it and appreciate them, instead of like going faster with your brain to the next thing. So you don't get to really enjoy those moments, because those moments, it took me 20 years to really understand winning a medal in the Olympics, until 2008, that I was sitting in the bleachers as a coach. I was there, and out of the blue, I'm watching. I remember the moment. I'm watching the ceremony of the medals, and when they gave the medal to the guy that got a bronze, I got goosebumps, thinking, wow, 20 years ago I was there. 20 years, But anyway, this is about you. So we're gonna send you some really positive energy. Oh,
love this.
All the prokies are just with you, sending you all this stuff, and we're so proud. Hold on.
I do miss you guys a lot, and I'm very excited to see you guys race at US Open.
We're like
cheering for your prokies.
We're gonna be thinking of you in a few hours, when you swim, and we're proud of you, man, and we're happy for Iceland, and go and kick some butt. I
appreciate that. Thank you, Sergio.
Awesome. Let's do it again at some point soon.
Would love to. Bye-bye.
Bye.